this video is about how the organisation factors have changed the wine industry. And basically what we're trying to look at is to examine those organisation factors, understand what they are, and then obviously how they have affected the wine industry, and then look at some of the tensions caused by globalised and local wine markets. Our keywords here are organisations, organisational bodies, which we'll go over, and I'll name you a few, and it's all about decision making and control. So let's have a look at the syllabus on the organisation, and we're looking at ownership, decision making, and control. They're the points we're going to cover today. I'll just highlight that there for you. That's what we're up to. So that's what we're going to have a little look at and see if we can explain that. So I want you to start thinking about, if you're a small independent winemakers, what can be done to help those winemakers? There's quite a lot, and that's what we talk about organisational bodies. An organisational body is a group of people who try and help other people out, and this can be in the wine industry. It could be looking at how wine is grown, like different farming techniques, different methods of using irrigation, sharing advice as well. Then we look at the business side of winemaking, looking at how we can maximise profits, how can we, sort of get new markets, how can we market it like wine differently, all those type of things. So when we talk about what can be done to help winemakers, there's all those different things that can be used, that help can be given to those winemakers. So let's have a look at organisation factors. So there are a number of governmental bodies that help run the industry. So as I said, economically, the wine industry provides a lot of money, and as a result, the government have set up some help for those people. On a global scale, one of the most important one is the Organisation of Wine, and their principal role is to obviously provide a forum where concerns of producers and consumers can be addressed. So one big concern is climate change. So the forum will discuss ideas about how winemakers can overcome that. They assist other international organisations, both intergovernmental and non-governmental, especially those that carry out standardisation activities. So what happens, because a standard bottle of wine is the same across the world, they try and keep to those standards. A Chardonnay in Australia should be to the same standard across the world. So that's what they mean by the standardisation activities. And as I've said there, they contribute to international standardisation and existing practices and standards. So, making sure that wine is of high quality all the time, and then obviously develop new international standards. A good example of that is to look at wine and introduction of cans. What do we need to be put in place? What laws do we need to put in place? One that helps the winemakers and also ensures the interests of consumers as well, making sure that the product is really good. Some other bodies within Australia, the Australian Wine and Brandy Corporation, the Grape and Wine Research and Development Corporation, and obviously they look into different types of grapes that can be grown. The Australian Trade Commission, to make sure that the body is operating at a fair level, and people and other sort of businesses in the winemaking industry are also operating at a fair practice. The food standards of Australia and New Zealand. Remember, wine is an alcoholic beverage. It has to pass a certain food standard, otherwise it can't be sold. Winemakers Federation obviously helps and supports winemakers, and the Australian Wine Institute, which obviously, like I said before, helps with growing different types and varieties of wine. And then we've got ownership, decision making, and control. So nature of ownership and control is the global wine industry has changed substantially over the last decade. I want you to just press pause and try and see if you can answer that question yourself, and then when you come back, I'll try and help you answer it. Okay, you should have unpaused now. So how has it changed? So it's gone from small groups of winemakers to big companies. A good example is 2003, winemaker Hardy was taken over by US-based Constellation Brands in a multi-million pound takeover. So it's that change from estate to branded wines. Remember, estate wines are just small individual winemakers. Branded wines are global corporations like Constellation Brands, and they have a number of different big wine labels. And this is all driven by globalisation and consolidation within the global wine industry at regional and national players to make themselves bigger in the wine industry. So that's where it's all, sort of all the decision making is made. And obviously, when you've got a big business like Constellation Brands, the winemaker won't be in charge of making the decisions. It's a company. It will be like the board, that type of thing. So ownership has changed from small individual groups to big businesses. The decision making has been, taken over by individuals and done by boards, and the control is really by those big groups of people. And this table really helps you explain those tensions. So we've got globalization, localization, global, local, transformation, small boutique, profit driven, family often lifestyle, mass produced, smaller ones are localized, economic considerations, cultural influences is strong, generic in terms of locality, terroir distinctive in terms of locality, branded wines, estate wines. So that's what we mean by this decision making. All right, I hope that is of use to you. Make sure you copy that table because that is gold and that's the information that you need. All right, thanks a lot. Make sure you add lots of notes to your Cornell notes, and I hope you got a lot out of that. Okay, thanks. Bye.